Merry Christmas. It's most appropriate to wish you a very Merry Christmas, for Christmas did not end on December 25th. The church has deemed that the joy of the feast of Christmas can't be contained in a single day. So we have the entire octave of Christmas, 8 days, to celebrate and rejoice that our Lord has come to us. The so-called 12 days of Christmas extends this celebration a bit further. The 12 days of Christmas run from the evening of the 24th of December to the Epiphany, when the Magi came and worshiped at the feet of Jesus. But even that does not end the Christmas season. The season of Christmas, in fact, runs through the baptism of our Lord, which this year falls on the 8th of January. But today is Holy Family Sunday. So I'll not only be talking about the Holy Family, but also what it means to be a Holy Family. Now, there is so much that could be said about the Holy Family. I mean, think of it. 3 saints living together under one roof. And not just any saints, but 3 saints from the same family. A family the likes of which the world had never seen before and will never see again. But when it comes to the Holy Family, I feel a particular closeness to, and in a way, even some small measure of sympathy for St. Joseph. Sympathy? Why in the world is that? Well, it's been said that the only thing harder than becoming a saint is living with one. And Joseph, though a saint himself, lived with Jesus, who it just so happened was also God, the second person of the Most Holy Trinity, and with the Blessed Virgin Mary, a saint, of course, also, who just so happened to be the Mother of God, to say nothing of being immaculately conceived. But my sympathy for St. Joseph is not because he shared a home with Jesus and Mary. That would be literally heaven on earth, would it not? But because being the only one in the house who suffered from the stain of original sin like you and I do, he also had to strive to overcome his imperfections and human weaknesses on a daily basis like you and I do, but with a twist. He lived with 2 people who were free of any imperfections and didn't succumb to any human weaknesses, whereas presumably he did on occasion. It seems to me his situation was not unlike being an only child. It doesn't take too much detective work to figure out who took the toys out and didn't put them away. In that sense, I have some sympathy for St. Joseph. And along the same lines, it's sometimes a bit hard to relate to the Holy Family, isn't it? For one thing, there aren't any families out there like them. They are singularly unique in all of history. Furthermore, as parents, I think we can all raise our hands and confess we're no St. Joseph or Blessed Virgin Mary. And our kids probably aren't anything like Jesus. Or perhaps we don't have kids. Or perhaps there are other differences in our particular family or circumstances we could think of. But the church didn't put Holy Family Sunday on the calendar to make us feel inadequate, but rather so that we could see how a faith-filled family responds to life, real life. For I would submit to you that despite the fact that there are differences between our families and the Holy Family, the differences are not as great as we might think. The Holy Family underwent the same joys and challenges that come with raising a family that we do. But they also underwent what most of us have never experienced: intense persecution. Not only from the government, who was literally trying to kill their infant son, they also endured ridicule and gossip about the circumstances of Mary's pregnancy. They endured unfounded rumors and spiteful comments because Mary and Joseph believed what God had told them through the archangel Gabriel. They moved several times, sometimes on a moment's notice, leaving all their possessions behind. And it may well be, we're not entirely sure, but it may well be that St. Joseph died early in Jesus' life, meaning Jesus may have grown up in a home without a father from a relatively young age. And then Mary, now a widow, had her only son taken away from her by an unjust and corrupt court system, who was more than willing to sacrifice an innocent man to pacify an elite religious ruling class who envied and despised him. So maybe the Holy Family isn't so different from ours after all. They faced tragedy like our families do. Jesus may well have grown up without a father, like some of our children grow up without a father, a mother, or maybe even both. And they lived everyday life with its joys as well as its troubles, like our families do. What the Holy Family shows us, one of the many things they show us, is how saints support each other in the midst of the joys and the tragedies of life. But you know, despite many of us being Catholics all our lives, and despite all we know about our faith, many of us still have a completely unrealistic view of what a saint is, of how we become a saint, and what it really takes for our family to become a holy family. I mean, the image of a saint some people have is someone who is completely detached from the real world. Their duties and responsibilities in life, so some think, must be such that they can and do attend 3 masses a day. Their kids are almost perfect. The younger ones willingly come to those 3 daily masses and sit quietly throughout the entire mass with their hands in their laps, listening attentively and participating fully. Oh, and a saint's kid never has to use the restroom during Mass. Their older kids and the spouse of this heroic saint of our imagination skip lunch every day to attend noon Mass together as a family. They never get angry or frustrated with each other. They never lose their tempers. And when their kids are not studying, they're all straight-A students, of course, as well as accomplished athletes, or when they're not eagerly and zealously doing their chores, they go around the neighborhood collecting food and clothing for St. Vincent de Paul. And not only that, but the whole family, kids included, decided to spend 1 hour a night over the next 3 years studying Greek and Latin together so they could read and discuss the great books in the original languages. That's not reality. That's not the family you grew up in, nor is it the family you live in now, and it never will be. So let's stop bemoaning the fact that our family is not one that only exists in our overzealous imaginations. Let's stop imagining what a holy family is and be open to what our faith tells us a holy family really is. You see, God put us in the family we're in, not because it was holy already, but so that we, as a member of that family, could be part of making it a holy family by becoming holy ourselves. St. Joseph was a member of the Holy Family because that was what was best for Jesus and Mary and St. Joseph. God knew Mary and Jesus needed a man of integrity and courage like St. Joseph. But St. Joseph wasn't born a saint. What the Holy Family went through and his determination to do God's will no matter what is what made St. Joseph the saint we venerate today, the patron saint of the universal church. And you know what? That same principle applies to you and to me. You live in the family that can help make you holy, that you can help make a holy family. But we have to cooperate with God's grace. And this cooperation does not mean the road will be easy. But it is within the family that we have a unique opportunity to minister to each other, to forgive each other, to live out the grace of our baptism, to exercise the priesthood of the baptized that we all share. And yes, it may well call for heroic sacrifice. The Catechism of the Catholic Church puts it this way: it is in the family that the father, the mother, the children, and all members of the family exercise the priesthood of the baptized in a privileged way. It is in the family that one learns endurance and the joy of work, learns fraternal love, learns generous, even repeated forgiveness, and above all, learns what the offering of one's life means. Notice the Catechism used the word learns. It's not something we're born with. It takes effort and doesn't necessarily come naturally. And the Church also realizes that we live in a fallen world. Families are not immune from being wounded by and suffering the effects of this woundedness. And as members of the Church, we have a solemn duty to reach out in love to those in difficult situations. Again, from the Catechism, those who, because of their particular circumstances, often not of their own choosing, are separated from their families. These are especially close to Jesus' heart and therefore deserve the special affection of the Church. The doors of homes and the great family which is the Church must be open to them all. But sadly, in our world today, there are also those who would try to make the family something optional, or even turn it into something that it is not, a mere human construct that can be reimagined or manipulated to whatever they want it to be. But we know as Christians that the family was ordained by God as the place where parents are entrusted with His children, precious souls that are begotten for Him, and that we, their parents, are to prepare for an eternity with Him. The family, therefore, precedes and supersedes any mere human institution, both in its divine origins and in its divine purpose. But since this runs counter to the world, we should not be surprised that the family as God intended it, like Jesus, has become a sign of contradiction, something that the world does not understand, something that stands in opposition to the so-called wisdom of the age, wisdom which is in fact folly. The family is something that stands in opposition to the prince of the world, and it is not an exaggeration to say that the family today has demonic forces arrayed against it. But we also know that without a doubt, he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. Let me conclude with a final quote about families from the Catechism that is especially important in a world where so many families suffer from broken relationships or find themselves in heartbreaking circumstances. No one is without a family in this world. No one is without a family in this world. The Church is a home and family for everyone, and most especially for those who labor and are heavy laden. During this Christmas season, let us look for opportunities to do some act of kindness and charity for those who labor and are heavily laden. That, too, is what it means to be a holy family.